Hey, how you doing? This is Brogi Naric, and this is my spoiler review for Us. If you don't want any spoilers, there's a non-spoiler review, should be in the annotation. Go check it out, but this will be full spoilers, so I'm just going to hop right into it. So I'm going to talk about positives and negatives and my feelings. Okay, so the building blocks that leads toward the end are very good. Like, it's very much like Get Out, where he has these little, like, oh, that leads to that, that leads to that. Because I was thinking over certain things. I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. But then when you know the twist, it's like, oh, that would explain this and that. And all I have to say is Lupita Nyong'o definitely needs an Oscar after this, because she did a great job. The moments when she's playing, you know, the mom, and then when the moment. Okay, so the moment when the shadow versions of themselves break into the house is intense. But that moment when she walks in and she's got that weird, like, marionette style, and that weird that face, and then when she starts talking, when you first hear her voice, she's got that sort of weird upper like sort of, I don't know, stuck up voice, but then like her throat is messed up, and she's like, we were tethered to you from the beginning, like sort of like that. Is a little more slower than that, but it was like wow. And then everyone else can't talk, because that's which plays into the twist. She can talk, everyone else can't. They either kind of growl or and then you got the kid. Yeah, okay, you got the son who's Pluto, and he's like acts like a fucking dog. That was kind of cool. He was creepy. I liked him. He was probably my favorite out of the weird shadow versions, because he had the most personality. You know, he's got this thing with fire and you know, their connection with the sun. So when the film starts off and it gives you a little rundown on Hands Across America, I was kind of like, I know this is important, I just don't know necessarily why. And when you get to the whole scheme of the, you know, people Hands Across America, I'm like, what was the point of that? It was weird. Let me go in order. So you have the family, the Wilsons. They're on summer vacation. Well, I guess it's summer vacation. Yeah, it's summer vacation. They're at the summer home. I believe it's the dad's mom, because they say it's since grandma died. It's either, I'm assuming it's the dad's mom and not Lupita's mom. They don't quite specify, but they're at the house. They meet up with the dad's friend. I'm assuming it's his friend from college, I guess, or maybe high school, because he went to Howard, so maybe they both went to Howard. I don't know. Either way, his friend, the white couple, and they have their two twin daughters, and they're much more of they don't really like each other type of couple, as opposed to the other couple, which is a much more loving couple. The mom, oh yeah, so Lupita, when she was a little girl, probably like 6 or so, in 1986, she was in Santa Cruz at the amusement park. She's there with her parents. Their parents kind of have this, I think they're divorced or separated, but they're at the fair. At the amusement park, her mom leaves her with the dad. The dad is drinking and he's playing whack-a-mole. She runs off, goes down to the beach, ends up in this sort of spook house amusement thing called the Vision Quest, and it's like a forest. Anyway, she's in the Hall of Mirrors, and the power goes out. Conveniently, now that I think about it, yeah, conveniently the power goes out. Which they don't explain how that happened, but the power goes out, conveniently. She's trapped in the Hall of the Mirror. She keeps calm. She tries to leave. She does this whistling, and then she stops, and then she hears whistling coming from somewhere else, and she gets kind of freaked out, and she bumps, and what she sees, she turns around, and then there's this, it's no longer a reflection. It's just a mirror there, or at least she thinks it's a mirror, but she turns around, there's another version of herself. And then from that point on, you realize she's having flashbacks. So Peter and Youngo's having flashbacks to this weird moment where she got lost, and then she saw this other version of herself, and it scared the hell out of her. And so she's kept this secret for years. Her husband knows nothing about it. The family knows nothing about it, except for her parents, because she went through therapy and stuff to get her, because she was like closed off. So she's weirded out about being at the beach. She doesn't like being at the beach. She's fine with being in the air, but when she's like, we're going back to the beach, she's weirded out. Some stuff passed. Their house gets invaded by this family that looks like a copy of them. And then I like how that was played out, where they the shadow version of Lupita Nyong'o lets the copies of her kids mess with the copy, or as she said, they're gonna play with each other. Like the husband, Gabe, is getting beat up by his clone, and they're fighting on the boat. You got the son, who has the strongest connection. Well, I'll say probably second strongest connection. Well, no, strongest connection with his clone, and they're playing in the little closet area of the storage room. And then the daughter, who's on track, she's running, getting chased by her clone. And I liked, like I said, the stuff that build up to it, where you have the son petting the toy by the door, and then the thing with the magic ring, he can flash, and then he knocks the toy out, so the son is like trapped. Little stuff like that builds up to it. But one of the shocking moments was when they go back to the friends, the white couple, and they're doing their whole thing where they're kind of arguing a little bit, and then out of nowhere they just get fucking murdered by their own clones. Because I thought it was the other family, because they knew where they were going, because they escaped on the boat. But no, it was clones of them. That's when the movie really starts to change, because you're thinking that it's only clones of the family for the most part, but no, there's clones of their friends too, and their daughters. And so that whole bit where they're fighting with them, the dad again fighting his friend on the boat, eventually on the boat, and then the mom gets kidnapped, and the daughter, she's badass. She had the golf club, and she's beating the shit out of the twins. She knocks out one of the other twins, and then the brother hits the other sister to save the mom. And then, of course, there's the fight when the one twin isn't dead, so they got to deal with that. I liked the scene where the brother realizes he understands that there is a connection between the two of them. That's what that whole scene of them in the closet, where they're looking at each other and they do the little mime thing, and he tells him to put his mask on, and then the kid takes off the Chewbacca mask, and then the shadow version takes off his mask and then pets it back on. Like, he pets it back on. So he realizes there's this almost like, again, like puppets, especially when you see Lupita move, she's got this sort of stiff movement, and it's really good. Like when she's running around or like walking slowly, she does a phenomenal job with that. And this, she's so good in this movie. So the moment where they see the kid and he's got the he was on the car, and then he walks away, but he sees he's linked with his clone, and he's like, get out of the car, it's a trap. And then you see the kid who likes fire, he has a match, because the mom got out of the car. Yeah, so Lupita, at a certain point, Lupita just takes over, because the dad, he got his leg, his knee is messed up, because he got hit a couple of times in the knee with the aluminum bat, so he can't move as well as he used to. And Lupita is just, she's gung-ho, because the whole time throughout the movie, she's panicking. She's just like, I got this feeling that little girl that I saw years ago, she's coming back to get me. I don't like being over here. And she's just like on edge. When shit is going down, she's just on edge. She kind of knows what's up. She knows, she's always, not necessarily a step ahead, but she's smart enough to always be prepared, which is good. But then there's a reason for that too, when you think about it after the fact, or rewatch the movie knowing the end. So the whole bit where the son then walks back, and he starts walking back, then the kid, the shadow version mimics him and walks back, but the kid does it because he knows there's the fire, and that's why the kid goes into the fire, because he can't control it, because they're tethered to each other. So the kid was smart enough to outsmart him that way. Then he gets kidnapped by the evil version, the shadow version of Lupita. And this, when I thought about it, it makes sense how she knew immediately, because she was gone. There was no like trail where to find her, but Lupita knew exactly where to go for the son. She did not hesitate one single bit. She knew exactly where she was going. She goes back to the spook house, goes through the maze. She knew what mirror was the secret exit, and she goes back behind it, and she goes down the escalator. Which the thing that kind of bugged me was it was only at one escalator that we saw that goes down. There was never an up escalator. So I'm like, well, how do they get up if there's only one down? Maybe there's a different exit. I don't know. That's one of my things that kind of bugged me. That's the thing with rabbits. I don't get the rabbits. There's not a single moment, unless I missed it, where they explain what's the deal with rabbits. I don't get it. Maybe it's like, well, rabbits use in science, but it still doesn't make much sense to me. She's walking through these hallways and there's all these rabbits running around, and she's slowly looking at like empty rooms with rabbit cages and some with, I don't know, tables or some shit. And she eventually, oh yeah, like it's almost like, yeah, it's like classrooms. That's right. Yeah, that's right. There's classrooms, which makes no sense. Kind of. It's weird. Okay, so yeah, so there's like classrooms. Because then she finds the shadow Lupita in a room that's like a classroom, and she's got the Hands Across America thing, where it's like the stick figures holding their hands across, and you find out before all of this that there are other, not only are there's clones of other people, and they're all just holding hands and standing in a line, similar to the Hands Across America logo and the t-shirt that Lupita had when she was a little girl back in '86. And then that's the moment where I love that shot where it's like a close-up shot on the shadow version where Lupita is like in the background, but like the face is like right up on the camera, and she's like standing there cutting, and you know, she's just, you see the paper falling. It's a beautiful shot. And that's when she's kind of explaining. So Shadow Lupita explains that there was this project. She doesn't know when it started. She doesn't say whether it was the government, whether it was rogue scientists, whether it was some Illuminati shit, whether it was aliens, but there was this project. And they figured out how to clone human life. Problem was, they could clone the body, but they couldn't clone the soul. And somehow through the process, the clone of the person and the real person was connected. They're tethered by the soul. They shared the soul, but they were still not quite the same. So that's a cool concept. And also before this, at the beginning of the movie, so like Pulp Fiction, they give you this weird factoid that there's thousands of underground tunnels and bomb shelters and underground railroad trails that are abandoned and throughout the country. And you're like, okay, keep that in mind. So somehow there was this project where they created clones of different people. We don't know when this started, but they had enough foresight to create a clone of damn near every person that exists back in, at least let's say back in 1980, because it's 86 when we start. So back in 1980, they had a clone of damn near everyone. Not only do they have a clone of everyone, they're underground and they're tethered to the people above them. So they're like these weird sort of soulless, or not, maybe not soulless, but they don't have the free will because they're connected to the people above them. So when they show in the flashbacks of her as a little girl at the carnival, and then up above ground, then it shows what's happening below ground, where all these people are mimicking the movements of the people up there. Like there's the roller coaster, and they're like in a line in a room, and they're just standing there like they're on a roller coaster. There's the spinning thing, and they're just running around in a circle. And then there's like the clones of her parents, like when her dad is acting goofy and he gets the t-shirt from the guy, there's literally a clone there with a t-shirt to give him. And that's when I was having problems. I'm like, okay, so and beyond that, they ran into each other because they had a strong connection, and she realized that they were different, and they meet each other in the spook house, in the mirror hall. And from that moment, and then they got separated. And then from that moment on, she was obsessed with being up there because this is the only life they knew. They are still human. They still feel. They just were abandoned. So she was different because once the girl started dancing, the real Lupita up on top started dancing. That's when the others knew she was different, because she was then mimicking the dance movements of the girl up top. So they're like, that's something. The others were like, she's special. She became their leader, and she came up with a plan, which was to allow the world to know they exist. And she comes up with this big demonstration of them holding hands across America, but also killing, the people that look like them to make up, like, we exist. And there's a moment when Winston Duke is like, this is like some weird fucked up performance arts demonstration, and that's exactly what it is. He says it as a joke, but it technically is just a big statement thing. It's murder in it and clones. And then my problem starts to come in where it's like, okay, she mentioned she got them the gear. Question: if it was a failed project that somehow exists under the country, like the entire country, there's a clone version of you that's tethered to you and mimicking what you're doing on the above. So if someone is up on the above taking a shit, there's a clone underneath you somewhere, at least mimicking taking a shit at the same time. Kind of. So when you see them, you're thinking, oh, well, they're going to be naked or some weird tattered clothes. They're wearing tattered clothes, but they're tattered clothes of what the people upstairs are wearing. So I'm to believe that there are millions of people underground wearing knockoff versions of the clothes that exist up on the surface level. That makes no sense. The rabbits. Okay, yeah, there's rabbits. This was 86. It is 2019. Who the fuck was feeding the rabbits? I get they eat the rabbits and that's how they stay alive, because they need to eat. Who was feeding the rabbits all those years? Because by the time we see it, the scientists are gone. So did the project stop in the 90s? Did it stop did it stop 5 years ago? Did it stop 2 years ago? Who the fuck were feeding the rabbits? Especially all these rabbits to feed the people across the... Because at first I was like, well, maybe it's just on the West Coast. But when you get to the end, enough of them do exist that they stretch from the West all the way, I'm assuming, to the other side of the country. So I'm like, that don't make no damn sense. Then she talks about she got them the suits, she got them the scissors. A, who the fuck made the gold scissors? B, who the fuck made the red jumpsuits for everyone's unique sizes? And who made the fucking glove that they wear? That's just weird. Secondly, what was the point of the scissors? Unless I missed it, there's no real point for the scissors besides, I guess, the symbology of cutting the tether. But that's a lot, especially for, like, I mean, she was 6. Oh, the clone was 6. Cutting the tether. And the rabbit, I didn't get the rabbit. I still don't quite understand what was the point of the rabbit. So anyway, she Lupita and the clone get into a fight, which was pretty good. And she's like doing the little dance moves to kind of dodge the attacks. And Lupita... And that was the thing that was interesting throughout the whole movie. There were moments where they had the scissors and they could have killed the family, but they don't. And I'm like, okay, either you're dumb or you don't want to kill them. Turns out they didn't want to kill them at that particular point. So that's why that was. So that checks out. And I like when Lupita got the chance, she like stabbed her. But not only did she stab the clone, through the whole time she's wearing handcuffs, she takes the cuffs, wraps it around her neck, and snaps the shit out of her neck. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, that's awesome. Fuck that clone. So then she, the son was in the locker. She saves the son. They get into the ambulance and they drive off. And it's like, all right, day is saved. And then that's when you see that not the day is saved, but the family is saved. And that's when you see the chain of people across the country and helicopters are like, what the fuck? But then it cuts back to the family in the ambulance and they're driving. Because the son at first was weirded out by the mom when she said, because he wasn't sure if it was her or not, but she tells him like, no, it's me. Let's get out of here. So when they're in the ambulance, they're driving and the son is just looking at the mom. Like he's just like staring at her. And Lupita's there driving, and she like spaces out. And this when they have the flashback, because she was missing for 15 minutes. And basically what you find out is when she was a little girl and she met the clone version of herself, the shadow version of herself, the shadow version knocked her ass out and threw her down into the facility and then took her spot. So you find out the whole reason Lupita, the weird version of her was out for revenge specifically for her is because she stole her life and she had been living her life. And then that explains why they knew she was different, because she said it was your decision to dance changed everything. The real clone, the real shadow version was the one who made the decision to be a dancer. And by her being a dancer up on top, the real her was mimicking her movements, but it was different, and they could tell it was different. And somehow these they're not completely mindless. They were smart enough to be like, hey, you're different. Why don't you lead us? Somehow she was able to call the clones on the East Coast to be like, hey, we're going to team up. I got the suits made. I got the gloves and I got the scissors. We're going to do this in 2019. You got to wait, but it's going to be a beast. I got this great idea. Somehow she was able to connect with them. That's some of my problems with this movie. But then the son is kind of like, wait a second, you're not who you say you are. The son gets it. And I like that. That was a cool ending. And then you start to realize the reason why Lupita was so on edge. And she's like, oh, I got to film this girl's coming to get me, because she knows she did some dirt. It also explains why when the son was kidnapped, she knew exactly where to go. She never once looked completely shocked. Like, she looked haggard, but when you rewatch it, you're like, wait a second, she's not shocked about anything. She knew from the point when he was missing to where to find him, because she's been there. She grew up there. She knows that place. So that shit is cool. I like that. It's just, like I said, the logic gaps about the suits, the rabbits, the clothing. Like, they get wearing the shittier versions of the clothes they're wearing upstairs, but there's no department stores. There's no... that was weird, you know. Yeah, the whole thing where they're upstairs eating like popcorn and eating hot dogs, and then downstairs and just tearing the shit out of a rabbit is like, that's fucking crazy. It's very much like M. Night Shyamalan, where it's a twist. It's much better constructed, but still it has those logic gaps. I enjoyed the film. I definitely got into it a little bit, but I still enjoyed the film. Definitely worth on a rewatch. The humor is great, and the horror and the theatrics are great too. That's why I said it's more of a B plus, because there is care, there is talent here. It's just certain narrative parts could have been a little bit stronger. Those are my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments. If you liked my video, hit the like button, share, subscribe, check out other videos on the channel. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos. Peace.
Finish this thought. I am a slave to...
the booty.